Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Friday, June 9th. Indiana Sports Beat Radio back with you. Thank you for being along with us. Jim Coyle here. On the program today, Alec Busse from thehoosier.com will join us. We'll talk about the latest in recruiting as Indiana hosting a slew of prospects. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Also on the program today, as always, our good friend Bob. We'll check in with him. Jeffrey the Greek makes a command return performance. Looking forward to having, man, it's been, how long has it been since we've talked to the Greek?
It's been since, I believe, December, since the last time we talked to Mr. Jeffrey the Greek. We got a lot to talk about after the unveiling of football schedules for 2024 and 2025.
Oh, yes, because we can talk about our East-West division conversations that we have had many times before.
Oh, yeah. And I tell you what, once we end up diving in, I think Indiana fans will be fairly pleased with what they drew for at least 2024. You don't see Ohio State or Michigan at all. You don't have to travel to the West Coast. UCLA comes to visit. It's a pretty favorable first-year schedule with the new format for Indiana.
Not bad, and hopefully as a matter of fact, let's see. What are the games that you've seen that you like?
I don't have it pulled up right in front of me, but I'll be able to get that to you in just a second because there's a lot of good stuff. Obviously, you'll have the Indiana Purdue rivalry. That's a locked rivalry. There's 11 different games, protected games that the Big Ten is taking advantage of. One of them is the Indiana Purdue rivalry, of course. The Old Brass Spittoon game will no longer be played annually between Indiana and Michigan State. They'll still play every once in a while, but it's not going to be a protected rivalry here.
But aren't you allowed to pick 3 protected rivalries?
Well, that I know we discussed some of that yesterday with Dustin Schutte. I don't know how much of that came to full fruition. But now I've got the schedule in front of me now. So they've released the conference matchups for 2024 and 2025. I'll go ahead and give you the 2024 games. Indiana in 2024 will have 4 road games and 5 home games in the conference. Your road games will include Michigan State, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. And at home, you will face Maryland, Minnesota, Penn State, Purdue, and UCLA.
Hello.
That's right.
That is, now let's talk about 2025 and then we'll come back.
Yeah, 2025, Indiana. Let me pull that one up. I got to flip my screen here for a second.
That's exciting.
In 2025, Indiana will have 5 road games and 4 home games. On the road, they'll face Illinois, Maryland, Ohio State, Purdue, and they'll travel to USC out on the West Coast. Home games, you'll get Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, and Rutgers.
That's also an exciting schedule. I don't know how fans cannot be excited about this. I mean, you look at that, you're getting to play UCLA. Very, very cool. And you're right. That sets up with Penn State and Purdue at home, Minnesota at home, Maryland at home, plus you have the non-con games, which that is Louisville is on that for like 3 years straight, right?
Yes, in 2024, I believe it's a road game at Louisville. 2025 is a home matchup with Louisville. But they also face Indiana State again next year, I believe, and then they'll play another MAC opponent, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's fun and exciting, and fans have to be excited about this. Welcome aboard, everybody. Let's get that out of the way. Of course, Indiana Sports Speed brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda. To get more to your door, just go to andymoorehonda.com for the best in new and used vehicles. Also, of course, Endeavor Hospitality and the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, where you can get the greatest in meats and in-house made products, full-size bakery, and the brand new Chop Shop Steakhouse located right next door, where you can just walk over and pick your own steak or have them cut it how you like it. There's no other place where you can get something like that. Very, very unique and incredible. Welcome aboard. We appreciate you being here. Have lots of people already hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Those are following us along on YouTube. You can do that as well. But thank you so much for being here. And if you are listening on or watching on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe, notifications toggle, and the like buttons. How's everybody doing down in Evansville on the river? If you're listening on 97.7 ESPN The Ref, always the right call, or 89.9 the WBRO in Marengo. Up in the Northwest in the region, on the voice of the region, WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, and our IU grads in Chicago. Fort Wayne Sports Station, The Fan, 1380. How are you guys doing today? 10 Cap City. Speaking of, there was something about Chicago I was going to say, but I forgot, so it doesn't matter. Hello to everybody on the hotline. Fred from Easton, Pennsylvania. He sent some pictures not too long ago. Did I show those?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
I think I did because I'd had them for a week or so before I did. I think I did. I'm pretty positive. Scott checking in from Evansville down on the river. John is over in Brown County. My man Pete, not for much longer, up there in the Shakopee, Minnesota. He's zipping his teepee up in Shakopee. My man Bob down at Georgetown, where I grew up. Let's see who else we got out here chiming in. I can't get it rolled down there. There's Tanis. Tanis half 11. I'd love to give me somehow that name. Sometimes you see names, the unique screen names that people use for various things, and it makes me laugh because I'm like going, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that.
I know we've always said half 11, but it's actually spelled Elvin. I don't know if that's a misspelling, if it's meant to say 11 or not.
Oh, see, you're right. I missed that. I was incorrect. My eyes didn't catch that. Thank you very much. He's over in Ohio. Half Elvin. Dang, I've always said 11. My bad. Oh, man, 5 left.
Says it's a character from a book. He just commented back to us.
Okay, I haven't gotten down there to it. Very cool. Philip says not every team has 3 protected games. Iowa has 3 protected games. I think is the only team with 3. It may be the option. I think you might have the option of that. If I was Indiana, I would protect Rutgers and Maryland along with Purdue. All the truth checking in. What up with you today, man? Appreciate you. He's down in Evansville. Robert, the truth. Let's see. Ed, how are you, sir? Appreciate you being along. There's Michael. He's down in Evansville. What's the like Louisville, they call it the Derby City. Cincinnati's the Queen City. What is Evansville? I know they have like a moniker. I can't remember what it is. Mr. Blackwell checking in from Vegas, man. I appreciate you because you're up early. Joining us here this afternoon.
Here we go. Evansville, often referred to as the River City. I feel like that's also a Louisville thing as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I've always heard that in Louisville. Stoplight City.
Evansville folks. There we go. I like that.
The Crescent City? Really?
Maybe it's shaped like a crescent the way it bows into the Ohio
I don't remember
River.
ever hearing that. I do remember hearing that from someplace else. But how's it going out in Vegas? Man, I started to say up early, but it might just be getting in. You never know. But getting back to Tanis, it's Dragonlance novels from the 80s. Okay. Thank you there. How about Cheryl Sizemore checking in? And for those of you looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, don't forget, that's your stop right there, Miss Cheryl Sizemore. If you're not dealing with Cheryl, you could be missing out on getting the home you want. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Appreciate Cheryl, her support, as well as she's a big IU fan. Of course, Sid, we know. We appreciate you, brother. Sid's jumping on the Crescent City. I'm going to dig into that. Fort Wayne, known as Three Rivers. Now, that's Pittsburgh. But they do. I remember having that conversation with Dylan Sin from Fort Wayne, from the Fort Wayne Journal Gazette. No, Michael says that the west side of Evansville is God's country. Now that's one I've never heard, but that is over. That's where Newburgh is, of course, and good part. Of course, and you've got Victoria National down there, one of the top golf courses in the country, but definitely one of the tops in the state. So lots going on there. We've got to take a break. Up next, Alec Busse from thehoosier.com will get caught up on who's going where, doing what, visiting, and the comings and goings in college basketball. Thanks for being with us right now here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
Good morning, Alec.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Doing well. I was looking at more of that schedule to try to figure out what other teams, Jim, avoid Ohio State and Michigan altogether. And it's looking like
where is that? Where is that?
Somebody just sent me a picture of it. It's not like a post of anything. I'm sure you can find it on Big Ten's website, though.
If you get on the Big Ten's Twitter, they tweeted out the single and double plays for the 24-25 season.
Yeah, so Indiana, Purdue, and Northwestern all avoid playing Michigan and Ohio State next year in 2024.
Hold on. Say that again?
Indiana, Purdue, and Northwestern all avoid playing. Northwestern is not in that. I'm mistaken. They do play Ohio State. So only Indiana and Purdue are the only teams that avoid both Ohio State and Michigan in 2024.
Catch 22, though. They get all three of them in 2025.
That makes sense for Indiana, but hey, you got to.
When you say all three, who are you talking? Who's the third one?
They get Michigan, Ohio State, and USC, and two of them are on the road.
Oh yeah, well USC, yeah. That's the other thing I told them. You don't travel to the West Coast in 2024. You get UCLA at home. It's very favorable 2024 draw if you're Indiana. If you can make a step forward in 2023.
Well, here's the thing. That season will either be Tom Allen has done enough to stay, so they're doing better, or it's going to be a new coach.
Which, if it is a new coach,
Now,
what
that's
better way-
not necessarily true because the buyout is higher than I thought it was.
And if it is a new coach, let's just say Indiana goes 1-11. It probably will be a new coach. And if it is a new coach, you get a brand new coach with a favorable schedule, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So either way, you have good.
Well, that's plenty to talk about. What else? As far as visits right now, Alec, what do you got that we should talk about?
Yeah, I mean, Mustaf is on his official visit this weekend. Last weekend, he took an official visit to NC State. Sorry, I don't know why I blinked on that for a second. He took a visit to NC State last weekend. Joey Hart obviously visited early in the week. He's visiting Kentucky this weekend. Texas and Rutgers are also in the mix. That's kind of all it is right now on the recruiting trail.
Boogie Fland is here in the next few
next
days.
week. Boogie Fland takes an official visit next weekend.
Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday. Happy Friday, TGIF. Thank you for being here. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you. Joined by Alec Busse from thehoosier.com. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. Yesterday was a fun day. I'm a huge college football guy, and the Big Ten released their future schedules, if that's what you want to call it. We know the opponents. We know where they're at, and that was a lot of fun for me, and I think they did a very good job with the Flex Protect model. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it made a lot of people pretty happy.
I'm going to have to say that normally, not like the NCAA. I'm not putting the Big Ten in the NCAA's bucket. But normally there's always like, are you kidding me? Or a couple of like, reallys and this and that. And nah, it looks pretty good. I'm like going, hey, that looks like a fun year. Now you have to win. That's up to the team to win, but that's a fun schedule. Now you want to talk about, you've added a home game with UCLA, and then the following year, you travel to play at USC. Where do they play? The UCLA plays in the Coliseum. Do they play they don't play in the Rose Bowl, do they?
They play in the Coliseum.
No, USC.
Yeah, USC plays in the Coliseum. UCLA
Okay, they play in the Coliseum. They both play in the Coliseum?
No, UCLA plays in the Rose Bowl.
Okay, they play their home games in the Rose Bowl. So eventually Indiana's going to make it to the Rose Bowl after a long hiatus. But that's just fun to look at this schedule, though, Alec. I mean, fans have to be excited to see that. And you've got Louisville on there. And let me tell you, Louisville is going to be a tough out. Jeff Brom is Jeff Brom, and he's home. And I'm telling you, that's not a series I would be happy to see on Indiana's schedule as a fan, because that's another tough. That's like when they had Cincinnati, just got Cincinnati off. That's what Louisville is going to be like to me, having a non-con that is just tougher than nails.
Yeah, I would counter a little bit and say I think if I was an Indiana fan, that it might be more fun to be playing a school like Louisville than it would be to be playing like Furman or some other directional school. Like excitement-wise, I think that's
I agree with you. Absolutely.
And also, I would also say that I think it's a good measuring stick before a team like Indiana goes into Big Ten play. And I think that that's a good thing to kind of have before you enter conference play. And especially now when you look at what the new Big Ten is going to look like. I was in conversations on our message boards with some of our subscribers last night about, Purdue getting, I think, 2 games protected against Indiana and Illinois, and Illinois having 2 with Northwestern and Purdue, and Penn State having 0 games protected. And I think one of the reasons
who protected 0 games?
Penn State doesn't have any protected games because they don't really have any rivals. And it kind of makes sense to not have them have any protected games. They didn't want any. And that's perfectly fine, in my opinion, because they don't really have any.
First of all, you'd have to get another team to agree to have to play Penn State. Like, oh, yeah,
exactly.
Minnesota's not going to say, yeah, we'll play you every year. Maryland's not going to. Indiana's not going to. Purdue's not. None of these other teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Ohio State did it, but they don't need it. So, yeah, Penn State, that's a great point. Penn State's in a kind of a weird position. They came into the conference. They've been in the conference for quite some time.
30 years, 92 or 93.
But it's still, you still know that they weren't one of the originals, so they don't have those built-in rivalries that you just talked about. So that's going to be – so their schedule's just going to flip-flop around, which they'll have an exciting schedule. They're going to have a rotation of USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin. So, wow, that's cool. They're the only team with no protected rivalries, I'm sure.
Yeah, Penn State's the only team with 0 protected rivalries, and then Iowa is the only team with 3 protected rivalries. They get Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin all protected, and I think that's a good thing. I know there's been some discourse online about, well, why does Iowa have 3? Well, that triangle of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin is pretty historic. All 3 of those schools are protected against each other, which is kind of cool. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those games between each school are trophy games, which is pretty cool and pretty unique. So I like that as well. And then the Nebraska game is one that I've come to really enjoy on Black Friday. It's a game that the Big Ten put on Black Friday. It's a quality game on Big Ten Network generally every year. Even when Iowa's offense isn't great to watch, I greatly enjoy watching it because it's so bad. It's greatly entertaining.
Well, you think to see those 2 words, Nebraska and Iowa in football, and instantly that should be entertainment. Mm-hmm. Now, Nebraska has they've still not, since they've joined the Big Ten, they have not gotten back or even been a really good team. I think that's going to happen now. They got Matt Rule, so forgot about that. Gee whiz! So that's going to be that's a hell of a series. And their 3 games; those are great games. Now, were you allowed? How many were you allowed to protect?
You could protect up to 3 at most. So
okay. That's what I want to make sure. So everybody had the option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was the only one that protected 3. There's a few that have 2. Michigan State only has 1 with Michigan, but Michigan has 2 with Ohio State and Penn State. Illinois has 2 with Northwestern and Purdue. Those are quick ones off the top of my head. Like I said, I think Wisconsin might have 2 with Iowa and Minnesota. Minnesota, I guess, would have 2 with Wisconsin and Iowa. So those are quick ones off the top of my head. Those are schools that I know have at least 2. But then you've got a lot of schools that have just 1, like USC and UCLA. They only have 1. Maryland and Rutgers is just 1 each. Indiana only has the 1 with Purdue, and they don't get to protect. I shouldn't say they don't get to protect. They're not protecting the LeBron-Spittoon game against Michigan State. And I know that there was some discourse about whether or not that game would be protected. I certainly understand why it would have been protected. It's a trophy game. It's a game that's been played a long time. But if you look at the history of it, it's not really a rivalry. Michigan State dominated it. And if I was a Michigan State person, I'd have been like, yeah, protect it. We want to play Indiana every year.
When did the old brass spittoon get added? Because that could be something. I don't know how long that they've been playing for the brass spittoon, but if it goes back to, the Big Ten is old, man, and it used to be the Big Ten. So these solid Midwestern schools used to have played forever. So but it's still, just because you played all of those teams, that does not create that rivalry. Purdue is the natural rivalry. But if I was Indiana, I would have tried to protect Rutgers and Maryland.
I think they could have, but I don't think there's much of a case to protect those. I think if you wanted to protect an additional school, if you were Indiana, in my opinion,
the case is a win is the case. That's
exactly. If you're going to protect someone, I think you want to feel good about your chances to win. I think if you're Indiana, the additional school you want to protect other than Purdue might be Illinois. But
we talked about that yesterday.
You're kind of pushing there. Like, there's not really a great rivalry there on the football side of things.
Well, there's not, because they haven't played a lot
because of the East-West.
Exactly, and that's now that'll go away, and that's something that could create. And especially right now, you've got Bielema over there. and he has already made a difference. Indiana was lucky to get a win last year when Illinois came here. I mean, that was a game that went down to the end, and Indiana was lucky to hold on, but they did. And I promise you, that was a loss that stuck in his craw all year long. It made, oh man, there is that one. That one probably was the Indiana loss probably just grated Brett Bielema more than anything all last year. Because he knew that was a game that was this close that they should have had, and it would have made a gigantic difference in their season because they went on to win 8 straight after that or something.
Not 8 straight. They did finish 8-5. It's funny, that loss to Indiana was a good microcosm for Illinois' entire season. They lost at home against Michigan State when they were 17-point favorites. I think late in the year they lost to Purdue at Memorial Stadium in Champaign when they probably were a team that should have won that game. And then Jim, I don't know if you remember, they had Michigan on the ropes the second to last week of the regular season, and Michigan State had to kick essentially a game-winning field goal with less than 15, 20 seconds left. And that was a game Illinois led for much of the second half. So it was a good microcosm for the entire season. But, yeah, I think that's one that Indiana probably could have tried to protect if they wanted to against Illinois, but decided not to. And I think Indiana got pretty much what they wanted. I don't know if there's another game that they really felt needed to be protected other than Purdue. And I think we're all excited that we get to continue to see Indiana-Purdue annually. And I don't think there's any question if that game was going to be protected. It's already been protected because Purdue's been in the West and Indiana's been in the East. So it was obvious that game was going to be protected. It's one of the oldest games in the Big Ten. It's one of the most iconic trophies in the Big Ten. And certainly excited that I'm now getting a chance to cover one of the Big Ten's longer running rivalries.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about this, and we will next time, but I don't want to run out of time because also there's a lot of visits going on with Indiana basketball. Jaden Mustaf, is he still in, or is his visit over now?
He got on campus late last night. He will be on campus all day today, and then he will arrive back home, I believe, on Saturday.
Jaden Mustaf, another covet that Mike Woodson would definitely like to have.
Yeah, he's a really interesting prospect. I really enjoyed watching him down in Dallas a couple weeks ago. He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's someone I would kind of describe as a really big combo guard. I don't really consider him to be much of a point guard, but I also don't think that he's a shooting guard because he's still developing his 3-point shot. This summer on the EYBL circuit, he's shooting about 21% from deep, but that's really just a small look at it from his perspective. He's shooting over 47% from the floor, and he's got a good stroke from the free throw line as well, making about 82.5% there. So he's certainly someone that Indiana is tracking. He's a top 50 prospect ranked by Rivals. I know 24/7 has him a little bit higher. I think he's in the top 25 by 24/7. But I really like his game. Yeah, I really like his game. He's still developing that shot, like I said, but really big, really athletic, really excels in transition, and I like his game a lot. And I don't think that he's their number one target at that guard position in the 24 class. I think that he's probably behind Dylan Harper, someone that they're really pushing for. Duke and Rutgers are also heavily in the mix for Harper. And then I also think that he maybe is a little bit behind Boogie Fland in terms of that pecking order at the guard position. And Fland's taking an official visit next week, starting the 13th or 14th. And Fland is higher ranked by Rivals. He's a little bit faster. He's smaller, though, but he's a little bit more of a pure scorer. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how Indiana handles the dynamic of the three of those and how they push for them or how they kind of wait for them. That becomes a really tough thing for a coaching staff to manage, because if you're Mike Woodson and you walk out of this weekend and Jaden Mustaf says to you, hey, I want to commit, do you accept that commitment? And that's certainly a question that Mike Woodson will have to answer in the next couple of days or potential weeks or months.
Yeah, but those guys usually don't do that, it seems.
I don't expect Mustaf to do that. He's someone in my conversations with him and people around him that I've gotten the impression that he's going to try and take visits to a couple schools. He was just on an official visit to NC State last week. He's got a top 6 that includes Maryland, Indiana, Virginia Tech, Miami, and Florida State. And he's already taken an official visit to Florida State too as of last year. So I don't get the impression that Mustaf is going to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned Dylan Harper. He is without question. That is a guy that Mike Woodson wants and wants badly. And I didn't think Indiana would ever have a shot at him, to be honest with you. A year ago, I'd have said they got no chance. But they have a serious chance right now. You cannot discount Rutgers. Rutgers thinks that they are solidly in place for him. And that may be the case. I've been told it's down to Duke and Indiana, which because his mom wanted to keep him close. I don't buy that. I think that he's going to go. He might not even be in college long. So I don't. He's going to go to. I believe he'll go to Duke or Indiana. I don't know that for a fact, but he's a special talent, that's for certain, and a difference maker.
Yeah, he's potentially the number one ranked recruit in the 2024 class. I love watching his game. Still developing his consistency as a three-point shooter, but he's a tough defender. He has really active hands on the defensive side, good length as well. And I really like his ability to kind of get to the basket and finish with both hands on the offensive side of things as well. To me, when I was down in Dallas, I watched a lot of Indiana's 24 kids. Dylan Harper was head and shoulders better than every other target that they are after this summer. That includes Liam McNeely, who's another top 10 recruit. I just fell in love with Dylan Harper's game. And like you said, Duke is in the mix there. Duke's obviously a really big brand. They have a lot of success on the recruiting front. John Shire has been one of the best recruiters in the country, dating back to when he was an assistant there under Coach K. But Indiana's done a really good job. I know they're pushing for an official visit at some point here. I don't think that Dylan Harper is going to try and take any visits until at least after Peach Jam, which is the first week or so of July. So we'll see if anything kind of develops and materializes for Dylan Harper after that. But yeah, Duke, Indiana, Rutgers, I would say, are the three biggest schools right now for Dylan Harper. And then he obviously has loads of other schools when you're a top 5 prospect in the class.
Joey Hart is a name I've been talking about a lot. He was here on a visit, and everyone I've seen a lot of people question, has anybody offered him? Because I don't know that he has been offered by Kentucky or Indiana. So that's an interesting situation. He might have been offered by now on the visit. Usually, why would you you don't usually bring somebody in for a visit at this stage and not offer them, I would imagine. But also, how much after this upcoming season, is this Anthony Leal's junior or senior season?
I need to double check my scholarships chart on that.
Yeah,
I think he'll be a junior this upcoming season. But in relation to Joey Hart, I think that it is a fascinating situation for Indiana because he certainly fits a need in the idea that he's proven to be a really good shooter. He shot over 40% from deep this past high school season and averaged close to like 23, 24 points a game. But I don't know if he's necessarily ready to play in the Big Ten at this point. Like, he was going to go to UCF, which was an American school, and he was going to go play in the Big 12, right? Because we know the Big 12 is where UCF is starting this season, and the Big 12 has been a better conference than the Big 10 the last couple of years. So maybe he is ready, but we don't really know for a fact there. Kentucky is also getting a visit this weekend, so I'll be really intrigued to see how much Kentucky kind of pushes for Hart, because he fits a need for them too. Though Kentucky has lots of needs because they have.
I was going to say, you fit a need for Kentucky. It's like Oprah. You fit a need for Kentucky. You fit a need for Kentucky.
Yes.
You fit a need for Kentucky.
I think they have 3 high school kids visiting this weekend or in the near future. Coach Cal does down there. So I will be really intrigued to see how much they push for Joey Hart. I know Texas and Rutgers have also been said to kind of be in the mix for Hart. So maybe my skepticism of if he's ready to play in the Big 10 or the Big 12 is a little bit off. I mean, if you've got Texas and Rutgers and UCF and Indiana after you, you're probably capable of playing in the Big 10, but I don't know how many minutes he would be ready to contribute. I guess as a freshman is maybe a little bit of a better way to say it about Joey Hart, but I certainly like the idea of it if I'm Indiana. I just don't know if I'm in love with the idea of it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Well, you look at Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer for Purdue, who they were starting. If he came to Indiana, Joey, he's not going to be starting. He just has to fill in some minutes, which would probably be very optimum, especially if he can contribute in those minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if he just comes in and makes 1 or 2 shots, right, in a 7-minute time frame or less than 10 minutes a game, like I think his value is incredible to Indiana at that point. So we'll see if Indiana pushes for him. I am intrigued to see how that kind of goes. Like I said, he's visiting Kentucky this weekend. I know Texas and Rutgers have been in conversation with him. I don't know if he's visiting either one of those schools. Like you said, in relation to him not understanding if he has an offer from Indiana or not, like his recruitment's been really quiet and it's been really hard to get in conversation with him. He wasn't at the Indiana juniors or seniors all-star game earlier this week. He was out with an injury. At least that's what was said. That was kind of frustrating because I was hoping that we would be able to talk to him over at the Hoosier, but we'll kind of see how things develop there because it certainly would be the last scholarship for IU.
What's up next for you, Alec?
Yeah, this weekend, I'm excited to have some coverage of the Indiana versus Kentucky All-Star game. There's a game tonight, and then the big one is at Cambridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, so we'll be covering that as well. Excited to get some coverage up of that. We have a story up on Flory Badunga and his recruitment right now, so I know that's one that Indiana fans are very excited about and intrigued to follow, so make sure you subscribe at indiana.rivals.com. So you can go read the story on Flory Badunga and some of that schedule breakdown. I did a fun little breakdown of what the new schedule format and Big Ten football means for Indiana.
Absolutely. Alec, Busse, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me on. Enjoy the weekend. Hopefully get some good weather and get out on the golf course, Jim.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. We've got more coming up. Not do we just only have more. Bob Kravitz, the great one from The Athletic, right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well, I believe. I can only
You
speak
believe
for myself, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jim's doing fine, though.
Okay.
I am trying to
Bob,
finish.
we may, if you don't mind the 9-10 on Friday, we may keep you at this until your stuff changes. If you don't mind. Slot for
Yeah,
Friday.
that's fine. That's fine. Let me just put that in my phone while I'm thinking about it.
And then as soon as you want to go back, if you want to go back to Wednesdays, just let me know.
It's every week.
Oh, damn it.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Dang it. 2891. God dang it. What the hell is one?
You good, Jim?
Yeah.
We still got about a minute and a half anyway, so.
Pee quickly.
Oh, God damn it. Jesus. Oh, my God, I hate my life. Get back up, jackass. Not that it matters. How much time do you have, John?
40 seconds. I'll go ahead and bring it back in so you can kind of hear it.
Cooked nutritious meal prep that we cook up. The Fresh Fork takes care of all the planning, shopping, and prepping and can even deliver them to your doorstep once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Happy Friday. Couldn't be any happier. Bob Kravitz is along from The Athletic. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Do I make you happy, Jim?
You couldn't make me any happier if you tried.
Okay, well, I'm not going to try.
Well, you don't even have to. That's the great thing about it.
That's the great thing about it. How you been, man?
I cannot complain either. Nobody wants to listen to it. But what do I got to complain about? I get to sit here and talk to you.
There you go. Doesn't get better than that.
See, even Fred's happy. He lives over in Easton, Pennsylvania. I think he's next door neighbors with Larry Holmes.
Is that right? I love Larry Holmes growing up.
He's not next door neighbors with him, but he has sent some photos. Did he send some photos with Larry? I believe, early on. Then he, Andretti lives apparently Nazareth is right there. I didn't realize Nazareth was right there.
Yeah, Larry. I covered several Larry Holmes fights when I was younger, and he was so underrated, man. He had that left jab that was it would just not knock you on your ass.
I remember not valuing him at the time. At the time,
exactly, because of Ali.
Yeah, and nobody could beat him afterwards. How long did his reign run?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know it was a long time. I do remember when he fought Ali at the very end, and it was one of the saddest spectacles I've ever watched, where Larry literally was trying hard not to hurt Ali. Ali at that point had already started to disintegrate as a boxer, and Larry just played patty cake with him so he wouldn't hurt a man who was really his idol growing up.
Absolutely was, and I've talked about this a little other times, but that was the golden, not only the golden era of heavyweight boxing, but man, that was a time, a magical time that there's a lot of sports that cannot match that. When you talk about the late 60s, early 70s, when Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, Ken Norton, George Foreman, then comes Larry Holmes, but even there was another guy.
Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
Don't forget Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier, and there was another guy from Louisville. I cannot think of his name that won the heavyweight title. And I may be leaving out another one, but all of those greats, and I mean greats, at the same freaking time. I'm like, this is. But I'm fortunate to. I was a kid, but the funny thing is, those matches were on ABC in the afternoon sometimes.
Wide World of Sports.
I'm like, why do I remember watching Muhammad Ali on a Saturday afternoon? Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. It was Wide World of Sports, bringing you the wide variety of sports throughout the world.
John, you have to dig that up, the Wide World of Sports intro, and play that.
Yeah, it's great. Thrill of victory, and
I don't want another copyright
agony of
this week.
defeat. The
I
what?
said I don't want another copyright claim this week.
It's so old they probably won't even hear it.
Yeah, sure.
Jim
Sure.
McKay.
Jim McKay. I'll tell you, the greatest fight I ever saw wasn't heavyweight. It was Hagler and Hearns out in Las Vegas. And these guys, for I think 3 or 4 rounds, tried to murder each other. It wasn't a boxing match. It was just a brawl. And it was the greatest 4 rounds or 3 rounds, whatever it was, that I have ever seen in boxing.
We could talk about that all day.
No, we won't.
The Big Ten's football schedule just came out. I'm not sure if you perused that, but that's pretty interesting and exciting, really. It looks the Big Ten, man, UCLA and USC, which we know that's a great addition. But now you look at this schedule, and you're like, wow, that's exciting.
It makes perfect sense. I just looked it over again this morning just to get a sense of it. Personally, I'll miss the leaders and legends. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, you're not going to be in a situation with Indiana where you're dealing with the East X number of times. I think there's more. It'll bring a little more parity to the proceedings. I mean, look, Michigan and Ohio State are still going to win every year. You know, with Penn State throwing in there once in a while, maybe Wisconsin or Iowa. But I think it's a real common sense schedule that I think is fair to virtually everybody involved. What do you think?
And USC is a program that is very much on the rise. They have the coaching in place. They're bringing in the talent. They're going to be a factor. And
no doubt.
I can easily foresee an Michigan, Ohio State versus USC Big Ten championship.
That wouldn't be too bad, would it?
No, and that's a very real possibility.
Caleb Williams, a quarterback. Oh man, look out! You know, I think it's a common sense approach. I read it last night, and then I read it again this morning just to make sure I was sort of up to speed when we spoke. And I like the whole flex plan. It sounds like a cable deal, the super flex, multi-flex, whatever it's called. But I think it's a very good move by the Big Ten.
Absolutely. And the Big Ten championship, which has always been held in Indianapolis Lucas Oil Stadium, probably going to be on the move, I would think, at some point. I mean, there's no way they're not going to want to play this in, say, the Rose Bowl or
maybe
Memorial Coliseum at some point.
Yeah, well, the Coliseum is kind of an old dump, to be honest with you, but you know, the Rose Bowl certainly. Yeah, or, you know, I see them go up to Ford Field at some point in Detroit.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. You know, it's got the dome, it's got, you know, the capacity. So there's a lot of options on the table for the Big Ten.
Absolutely makes sense. What was your best take out of the schedule? The Big Ten they usually, and I said this earlier, it's not like the NCAA, but with scheduling, the Big Ten usually screws people. And a lot of the time, I don't want to sound like a homer saying it's Indiana, but they didn't. No one seems to have gotten screwed. This just looks very equitable.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was looking for. You ought to be a writer. Yes, it's very equitable. You know, and it maintains the historical, the historical games, the IU Purdue. IU Illinois, IU Northwestern, even though I don't see them as being major teams for them. But yeah, it's I think it's a fair approach. Scott Docterman, our Iowa writer, college football writer, wrote a tremendous column in The Athletic if you get a chance to see it. Basically saying that this is the future and it's fair to everybody. It really is.
Absolutely. And these games are just going to move around. So fans are going to get an opportunity to see
Right.
some great games. And not only that, if you're a fan and you have the ability, are going to have the ability to travel to some cool destinations when your team plays USC or UCLA.
Yeah. I'm excited about when that starts. What, in 24?
Yeah.
I believe 24. So yeah, that'd be great. And I'll definitely be putting in for that travel request to go out to LA.
Yeah, I'll be your bag boy on that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Oh, never a problem.
I travel pretty light.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, that's going to be just it's a great experience for these athletes too. Now it's really expounding. People have talked about, oh my gosh, gonna be us travel. Man, you get on a plane, it doesn't matter where you're going. You forget about it. You're talking, jacking around, playing cards. Plane ride's a plane ride.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me, and if my supposition is wrong, please let me know. But if you're on the volleyball team at USC, now you've got to go out to Iowa on a Tuesday, and you've got classes on a Wednesday, and I don't know how they're going to work that out with some of the minor sports. But certainly for a once a week football game, I think they all fly. They don't fly. It's not like they're flying commercial. And there's 6'8", 300-pound center sitting in a middle seat. So, I don't worry too much about them, but I do have concerns about the smaller sports and the traveling they're going to be doing, especially coming out of the West Coast.
Well, I've always I'm just guessing on this, but I would imagine if I were the Big Ten that I would have a lot of I hate to use the word jamboree because it sounds kind of high schoolish, but group events where multi-team events where you're bringing in 4, 5, 6 events, especially for cross country, things like that. That's got to be constant to where you can minimize that. And I think that there are a lot of ways where they can do that, and hopefully that they will. And I would think that they would.
I would too. I mean, I'm sure this is not something that they woke up and said, oh my God, there's a lot of travel for the volleyball team. I'm sure they've got things figured out to address that. So, and again, I'm not even sure I'm right about this, but I would think that if you're part of UCLA or USD minor sport, you're gonna be doing a lot of really tough traveling, which makes academics a little bit more difficult. But money talks.
I don't remember if I don't think we ever we've spoken about the Indy 500 since, I know it's been 2 weeks ago, but just briefly, it was spectacular. And you wrote a great piece on it that if this doesn't do it for you, find another sport because and it's the truth. I don't care what kind of sports fan you are. If you're a sports fan and you were there, especially if you're there, and let me tell you, being at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 500 is something that's just
bucket list.
It's I've been to the Derby many times, and I'm not comparing them as far as one, but the Indy 500 is just a much more massive, bigger event, and by that it just brings that massiveness, and it's a spectacular event. And you're right, it was breathtaking, and what a great winner, what an ambassador for the sport, Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, absolutely, very, very popular winner. He's a guy, it's not like he was some old geezer who had won all these races but had never won the Indy 500. He's only 32, but this was his 12th attempt at the 500, and he was starting to feel the pressure. He was starting to feel he heard all the questions. How come you haven't won the big one? It's the same as Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan didn't win until his 12th attempt at Indy. Of course, Tony was a little bit older at the time. But, yeah, I think it's great for Joseph. I think it's great for the sport. And, we'll see if there's any momentum built off of that incredible, one-lap shootout. Unfortunately, they move on to Detroit and Road America and all these other places. And most of the country yawns. But, I the 500 as a one-off is still one of the great events in the world, and maybe the greatest in our country.
Got to take a quick break. I just want to come back and ask you a couple other things about the Trace Jackson Davis. You have a piece on him and the gambling issues that is kind of really spreading out. But we'll be right back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the, I'm trying to get. I've been working on this gift cards. What I'm working on, Bob.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, like right now is what I was been trying to do. You know, this god dang thing.
Got a staple gun?
Yeah.
Piece of tape?
I'm a hammer and nails is what we use. This thing is hung up here without problem for 5 days. Bound spot. Magic spot.
There you go.
All right.
I'm very impressed.
All right, hold on. Let me finish this real quick. Where'd that go? Boom. Back. Boom. 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 How have you been, man? How's the golf?
Good. Playing this afternoon.
Your home course?
You bet. You bet. Playing next 3 days. I'm a hard worker.
What have you been shooting?
88. I've been right around 88, 89 last 4 or 5 rounds. So very, very average.
And Jim,
a little bit better than average.
Probably, if you let Bob go mid-segment, you won't need to break because we'll take this up to 950, just to let you know.
Okie dokie.
Because I know you just kind of get through a few extra things. So, Bob, normally we would have just kind of kept you going, but now that we have Fort Wayne, we kind of have a semi-hard out after our third break because we send them an hour of the show. That's why we had to take a weird little time break right there.
I thought he had to go to the bathroom.
And normally on Fridays, Zach Osterman would be coming on at this time too, but he's on vacation.
Okay. Yeah, any time is fine.
Well, we appreciate your cooperation with us.
Not a problem.
All right, 30 seconds.
Hospitality's Wow Club is located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. I hope you're having a great day. You should be. Bob Kravitz is here. Bob, Trace Jackson Davis, another piece you had that he has probably his draft stock has probably risen more than anybody else that I've heard in going in there. That's already in there. He has been talked about as not getting drafted, then late, and now I'm hearing potentially late first round or early second round. But right. wherever he goes. It sounds like he's going.
Oh, no doubt. He's look, we don't know if he can shoot from the outside. We may never know if he can shoot from the outside. It's one thing to do it in drills at the NBA Combine in Chicago. It's another thing to do it with a hand in your face. So, but even if he can't do that, I still think he is enormously valuable to somebody. You know, he mentioned a guy the other day, and I've compared TJD to this guy as well, and that's Draymond Green. You know, a guy who can be kind of a point forward. He's not a big scorer, but he rebounds, he sets picks, he makes the smart pass. I really think that Trace is going to find a spot in the NBA. I still think he's a second-round pick, to be perfectly honest with you, but he's going to have a place in the NBA, and he's going to play some. He's going to be a rotational player, in my view.
Absolutely, and he has the desire, without question, and he's got the pedigree as well. Don't forget, his dad played in the NBA for quite a long time,
right?
And, so wish him the best of luck. And Jalen Hood-Schifino, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I've heard that his stock may have risen somewhat. I don't think he's going to quite make it to the lottery, but it's just going to be interesting to see how that goes. But in your piece, you talked about he may not be the right fit for the Pacers because every time this happens, IU fans or whatever, they want the Pacers to draft the IU guy or the Purdue guy or whatever, or even the Fever. You know, they got Grace Berger. So, but that's not. She's a good player. It doesn't always work out that way.
Well, Steve Alford wouldn't have worked. No. They got this Reggie Miller guy instead. It's still funny to me how they booed that night, but I don't blame them. I remember when they booed for Paul George. It wasn't so much a boo as it was a who. Nobody knew who Paul George was coming out of Fresno State. No, I think the Trace, like I say, he's got a place in somebody's rotation. I just don't know that he necessarily fits what the Pacers are trying to do, especially when you think that if they stay at 7, they're looking at Jerace Walker, who's a power forward, or Cam Whitmore, who's a power forward, or Taylor Hendricks. We could play that position. So, and they've already got Isaiah Jackson. They're stuck with Daniel Tice for now. Obviously, Miles Turner. They've got kind of a glut of bigs, and so I don't think it's a positional. It's a positional. Fit for the Indiana Pacers. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. But I wish him the best wherever he goes.
He's a good kid. I really like him.
Gambling, man. Obviously, with all of the gambling apps, with being illegal in so many states, athletes pushing this stuff. The funny thing is, I remember when the story broke about the Cincinnati, what all that stuff happened with LSU, Alabama, the bet being placed in Cincinnati by the Indiana guy or whatever.
Right, Mooresville.
Reading the article, there was like 6 freaking gambling ads.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. And look, I think we all understand there's a certain hypocrisy in the fact that the NFL and all the sports have crawled into bed with the gambling, with gambling interests. But, it's really simple. If you want to be in the NFL, don't bet on NFL football. It's not that damn difficult. I mean, I understand some of the rules are not totally clear, but we're talking about the integrity of the game, and you can't have players and coaches betting on games that they'll have an impact on the outcome. And to me, this is just dumb. It's not like the guy has got a serious gambling illness or he's freaking Art Schleister, the worst person in the world. But he thought he could get around it, and he didn't think the rules applied. And, ignorance is not an excuse. It's he knew what he was doing, and he got caught. And the way the technology is now, you place a bet from inside the building, they're gonna catch it. They are gonna catch it. So be careful.
They had you're pinpointed within like 3 feet. The minute you go
make
into
a gamble, make a bet.
Yeah, the minute you go into to start placing an app, they know where you are within 3 feet. But that also shows the system is working. I was shocked.
Right.
I was like, whoa, how the hell they do that so fast? I mean, this was boom, boom, lightning quick. So you have to applaud the usually it's after this stuff happens that things like this get put in place. They were ready, man. And so kudos.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Isaiah Rodgers, I was talking with some of the guys who covered the team every day, and I said, "You at all surprised that it was Isaiah Rodgers?" And to a man, they all go, "Nah, not really, not really, not a big surprise. A little bit flighty, a little bit of a knucklehead. Good guy, good family guy, all that, but this is not beyond the realm of comprehension." So, again, they're all accusations. He's being investigated, but he has in fact come out and acknowledged wrongdoing. So it's not a big mystery, is what I'm saying.
No, not at all. And the thing is, people have to understand, not betting on your own team would be obvious, but you can't even bet on other teams because you still can get inside information. How many of these guys know players on every one of these teams? And that's why they can't bet on other games. It would be they could just bet thousands of dollars and just rack it up.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's a reason these rules are in place. And, I think that while there is a certain level of hypocrisy, look, if fans don't believe the games are on the up and up, then call it wrestling. Just call it wrestling, because if the games are not pure or as close to pure as possible, then why play them in the first place?
I agree. What is up next for you? What are you doing? What's
I'm playing golf, buddy.
You've been pumping out the content, and first of all, let me make sure that people understand. You need to go to The Athletic or be a subscriber. If not, you're missing out on probably the best sports. It's not a publication, I guess. What do you call it?
It's best sports journalism.
There you go.
Yeah, what do you call it?
Whatever you want to call it. It's the best. It truly is the best all around.
It's great stuff,
in my opinion. And I am a subscriber. I don't get it free. I subscribe to it as well. But I enjoy they cover everything, whether it's national, local. You got people like Bob who can cover Indiana, the Hoosiers, or Purdue, or the 500, or whatever the major event is here, and does it so eloquently. Thank you for doing that. Ben, you've been pounding out the content here lately, man. All those stories I just talked about, it was just boom, boom, boom. But there was so much going on with Indy. Indy provides manna from heaven.
But it's a little slow now. There's not so much manna right now. It's a little slow. But we got the NBA draft coming up in a couple of weeks. The Colts will be they'll have a mini camp next week for a couple of days. We'll hear from Anthony Richardson probably on Tuesday. So there's a few things going on. So I can't play golf 24/7. I know it's tough.
This is also a time where many people I'd like to go into hibernation to try to recuperate a little bit, but that doesn't happen.
I'll be going out of town here and there, so we'll get our vacation time in.
I don't mind working during a little vacation. How about the smoke up there affecting?
Terrible.
I know. What NFL team had to cancel their practices?
Right, probably in the Northeast. I'm guessing. Giants, Jets, Philly, somebody. I saw a picture.
Giants, Giants.
I know what that air is like because I went to Beijing for the Olympics, and I remember we didn't see the sun. The sun was out, but we didn't see it for like 4 days because the smog was so oppressive, and everybody had terrible headaches. myself included. And then the rains came and it blew everything out, and everything was fine after that. But yeah, it's overwhelming. And my wife's like, "Do you sure you want to play golf in this air?" I'm like, "Oh yes, yes I do." Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that is the old Hartford Whalers hat that you're wearing, correct?
Always. I got to get a new one. The thing is starting to walk on its own.
Dude, it's just now getting into it's just now coming into its own. What are you talking
Okay, well, I know, but my wife's like, you ought to wear some clean
Well,
hats. I'm like,
but I will say, you got that bill, boy. You got that bill cranked around.
I do. Like, I'm old school. I don't like the.
I'm not a flat bill guy. No, I can't do that.
No,
I'm somewhere in the middle.
No.
I do have a Callaway hat at home that I wear just to be goofy. Every time I put it on, I feel like Ricky Fowler, except for like 8 inches taller.
Yeah. I can see where there might be some confusion over which one is you and which one's Ricky.
Well, that's pretty much all I have for you, buddy.
Well, all right, that's fine.
I appreciate you. You so glorious to take time here on this Friday before you go out and shoot a 72.
72, and then I'm going to leave after the 15th hole.
I'd stop, walk off, go over to
the bar,
Psalms, and enjoy it.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for having me, as always.
Thank you. We appreciate you so much. Could not live without you, brother. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Be a subscriber. Make sure you're giving him a follow as well. Appreciate you, brother.
See you, man.
We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Brought to you by our good friends from Hank's Pizza Back, located on College. You can also reach them for deliveries, 812-330-0000. Pizza, top bowls, back bowls. It's got great stuff. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
That was an early break.
It's okay. Well, I mean, it'll end up taking us right to 9:50 pretty much.
Did you say Jeffrey Greek's not coming on?
No, he is.
Oh, okay. Skirt me, man. Oh, jeez. Don't hit this time. Oh. Rushing.
Oh, there he is. The man, the myth, the legend, JTG. There he is. The man, the myth, the legend, JTG. You got me, Jeffrey?
I got you, man. Sounding good. How do I sound?
You sound great.
Awesome.
We're in commercial right now. We'll be back in about a minute and a half or so. Jeffrey's here, Jimbo.
All right.
Jim's he's in Florida.
Okay. Oh, nice.
He brought his banner with him, though.
You can't track that, obviously. Although I printed the schedule stuff out.
How do you feel about Iowa protecting 3 games?
I feel fine.
I feel fine.
What's up,
The
man?
great.
How we doing?
Great, brother. How are you?
If I were any happier, I'd be twins.
If I was any happier, I'd be you.
Oh, wow. We're just going straight to the BS this morning, I can see.
It never stops.
Yeah.
Got the new setup, I see.
Yeah, I've got a new speaker. Or microphone, I should say.
It sounds really good. I think you may
Good.
have had it when we spoke in December, but it does sound really good.
Yeah. What's this guy?
Oh, you got a pea popper remover too, whatever you call that thing.
Yep. Doing what I can.
What the hell is
It's like a windscreen type of thing.
That's
Oh.
yeah.
All right,
Stuff
here we
that's
go,
old
guys.
hat to a
Food is
old
their
pro
main
like you.
focus. Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Happy Friday. I hope it is sun shining wherever you are. No, if it's not, it is now because the Greek has returned. Jeffrey the Greek, after a long hiatus post football season. How are you, brother?
Great to be back. And hey, we couldn't have timed this out any better after the announcement yesterday, huh?
Exactly, and we talked about it a lot today. It's been such a fun conversation because I've said this. I'll say it again since you're on, but I'm not putting the Big Ten in the NCAA's boat of being a screw off. But when it comes to scheduling, the Big Ten usually always does something that is stupid. It's like, why did you do that? None of that here. This is like, wow, this is great for everybody. It's just a good-looking, fun, exciting schedule, and that's great news for the Big Ten. First of all,
Yeah, you guys stole my thunder, I guess, because that's what I was going to say. Is the story is that there is no story here. There is no screw up to talk about. There's only cool, exciting matchups to talk about. It's awesome. I mean, this is a needed spring bump for me. This is like a sports abyss for me in between pretty much golf majors. So this has been awesome to follow for the last 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah. So, what did anything jump out at you first?
I guess probably that they just did a good job. And then also on top of it, right? I mean, it
took a minute for that to sink in. So I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
For sure.
Where's the hook? Where's the hook?
I honestly believe a lot of people were looking over it like, okay, where's the mess up? There just doesn't seem to be one. I joked with somebody
for us for the covering and not being a homer. I was easily going to the Indiana schedule because that's usually where it happens.
Sure.
They're either going to open up with Ohio State like they do this year, or they're going to open up with Iowa like they did last year, for the fourth time in 6 years. But no, I'm like, hey, go with it, baby. You got it. That's up to you now.
Yeah, and they got, obviously Purdue got the rival. Obviously we all knew Purdue and Indiana would be, a locked-in rival. What I was going to say before is when the new Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti, took the job, I swear, they announced him at the press conference in Chicago, and they immediately took him down into a bunker to fix all of the stuff that K-Dub left, in the aftermath behind him. TV deal, not really done, had to clean that up. And then right on top
not done, but some things that he did not have authorization to do.
Correct. Yeah.
Give away the Big Ten championship to a network that is not Fox or the Big Ten.
Yeah, I've never sold something that wasn't my own property before, but hey, that's a new revenue stream that K-Dub opened up to the business world. Great, great job by him. But yeah, so that had been the story, just a couple of weeks ago. It seems like old news now. And now we go right into the schedules, and I would love if there was some sort of documentary on Tony Petitti's first 30 days on the job. Because he seems to be been a busy man, very quickly acclimated himself to, what Big Ten fans want, expect. He had to have gotten a lot of insight from a lot of knowledgeable people. And, I'll give my guy Scott Docterman a shout out. I mean, this is essentially what he had laid out weeks and weeks ago. And I don't want to speak for him, but I swear that part of what he said, though, is, well, this makes the most sense. So that's probably what the Big Ten won't do, but they did it. And it just, there's so many fun parts of this schedule to break down. It's awesome.
It really is. Just look at Iowa. Jeffrey Fowler is a big Iowa guy. So let's go to the Hawks. I think for the 24 schedule, I'm assuming the games that are highlighted are home games with Illinois, Minnesota, Ohio State, Rutgers, and USC. Is that correct?
You're looking 2024.
Yeah.
They got, well, the home games are Illinois, Minnesota, I take that back. That's the away games. Yep.
Oh,
so I mean the big headliners there are UCLA. That Iowa has both UCLA and USC, and then they play Ohio State as well with USC and Ohio State being on the road. So those are two tough games. Obviously, I welcome it. I'm tired of the
welcome to the Big Ten East, baby.
I mean, we're all getting. Yeah, and what I will predict, I said it way back last fall and probably before that, I believe Iowa's going to look like about a 8-4 team going into that year, just like they are going into this year. They got a 7.5 point, total. I think a lot of these teams are going to look very similar 3, 4, 5 years from now than they have the last 3, 4, 5 years. But there is going to be one team that's going to take a step up and one team that's going to take a step back. That's just inevitable. So maybe it's Iowa, that takes the step back. Who knows? But I do think, it doesn't. I don't want to speak just on Iowa, but as an Iowa fan, seeing UCLA on your home slate, I don't think it's been decided yet when these games are. But the thought of UCLA coming into Kinnick, end of October into November, I mean, that's an exciting situation. It would be the same thing for Indiana fans. You guys get pretty chilly in your neck of the woods too. So hopefully, I mean, we're going to inevitably see some of that. They're not going to backload USC and UCLA schedule to play home games all in November. They're going to take some frosty trips. That's something that I feel like Big Ten fans have wanted to see for decades.
Yeah, and I look at Iowa's schedule, their home slate for that year. They get Nebraska, UCLA, and Wisconsin at home, which Nebraska and Wisconsin are two of their protected games.
Right.
So,
yep.
Along with who was the other one? Minnesota,
Wisconsin, Nebraska. The headliner for Iowa is not so much the tough schedule in 2024. I feel like every Big Ten team is going to get a tough slate in one of these 2 years, if not both. The headliner for Iowa is 3 protected rivals. They're the only team with 3 protected rivals. I had thought that the rivalry that was going to get kicked to the curb was actually Iowa-Wisconsin. They have already done that in the past with Iowa and Wisconsin. I was already, mentally and spiritually committing myself to that being the case. But again, the Big Ten did us a solid. So Iowa's got 3 rivals. You look at Indiana.
Why they're the only school that locked down 3 of them?
Yep. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's just how it. Iowa, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin have been a rivalry forever. Then when Nebraska came in the Big Ten, was it 12 years ago now? There had already been, frostiness between Iowa and Nebraska fans before that. They're obviously border states. So they just the Big Ten just kind of wedged that rivalry in. It's become a rivalry. I think even the snootiest of Nebraska fans have to understand that now. So that's it. It's nothing more than just happenstake where that Iowa has 3 rivalries. Michigan has 2, right? Ohio State and Michigan State. Indiana has 1. I don't think it's a slight with Iowa having 3 or Indiana having 1. That's just the way, there's really nothing more to read into it other than it's 130 some year long, sport that we're playing here. These rivalries have happened over time. And that's just how it is. Indiana Purdue is a great rivalry. Obviously they had to keep that in place. And I guess I would ask you, your 2024 and 25 protected opponents are Maryland, Michigan State, and Purdue. So you're playing those 3 teams, both 2024 and 2025. I would think as a Hoosier fan, you would be happy about that. That's a pretty darn good draw right there.
Absolutely. I think that they probably would have been better off if they replaced Michigan State with Rutgers.
Sure. Yeah. But, I feel like there's a little bit more history between Michigan State and Indiana than obviously Indiana.
Forget history, baby. They need wins.
Yeah.
They don't need history. They need wins.
But I think that's something the Big Ten does right there is that they did take history into account by giving Indiana Michigan State instead of Rutgers. Like I think that's part of what they did with matchups like that. And I really do feel like they have done a good job parsing out essentially, like you have to call it how it is. Who's playing the big boys, right? Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Penn State. Who's getting those 4? The four big dogs in the conference. It's tough to pour over the entire schedule for all 16 teams, but it seems like they've done a really good job spreading those out. So that will promote fairness. That will promote better matchups. More often you're going to have a top, 25, if not top 10 or 15 matchup. So I'm just glowing, man. I don't know what to say. Like I'm happy with how this looks.
It is. It is just I can't remember a time when a conference released something that was this exciting. To be honest with you, that really brought something to for everybody to be. They should be happy about, especially
and on the heels of the SEC embarrassing themselves by staying at 8 conference games and going to 9. So to me, this was like
my next subject to bring up to you was not only now does the Big Ten have 9 conference games. Now, they've added USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma's going in the SEC. I get that. But they're still just playing those 8 measly ass games with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. And not only that, you've got, and I'm just using Indiana as an example, but they at last year or the last 2 years, one of their non-conference games, Cincinnati, college football playoff contender. Now it's Louisville and Jeff Brom. And if anybody thinks that's going to be easy, they're out of their mind. Not only is Jeff Brom good, but he's home. He's going to be really comfortable. He's also going to be really driven to make Louisville as good as they can be. So not only does Indiana have the 9 conference games, they've got that game. And other teams have the same thing. I'm not saying that they don't, but the Big Ten is just relentless. They play the best games. The SEC is tough. Yeah, I get it, but they play 9 games. What is you get 3 other Troys you could play or whatever.
I already saw something on Twitter, Inevitable, right, where they stack up the top team, the 16 teams in the SEC, and they rank them right down from 1 to 16 versus the Big Ten. If I'm, trying to be as honest as I can in all forms, I do think the SEC is tougher, but only slightly. I think it's slightly tougher. It's very comparable. So the fact that the Big Ten is willing to play the 9 conference games, almost all Big Ten teams are going to play the year 2023, 24, and 25 by playing 10 Power 5 teams, throughout the year with one non-conference. I think this is a misstep by the SEC. It was a stumble late last week, beginning of this week, not going to 9 games. They universally got lambasted for that, and that's rare. It's rare that the SEC gets shots taken. And then I wonder if Tony Petitti and the gang saw that and said, "Let's pounce and get this Big Ten schedule out now." So listen, I'm. I got the big feels, going right now, and so I've got confidence suddenly in the leadership of the Big Ten, and that's my read on the deal is they wanted to schedule out and really take advantage.
I'm looking at something like USC schedule, and their traveling that they'll have to do. Not too bad. They have to come back, but they have to come to Michigan, to Wisconsin, to Iowa.
Who are we talking about here? Sorry, I lost you.
USC.
Who are we talking about? USC. Yep. Yeah. So, odd 3 protected rivals there. I mean, the oddest one is when you look at the Big Ten's two-way opponents. Meaning the teams that they're protected that they're going to play. Penn State's not even. I mean, they're listed, but they do not have a protected rivalry. So you got Iowa at 3, Penn State at 0. Again, that's no slight against Iowa or Penn State. It just is what it is. Penn State is going to be a specifically unique team moving forward. They're going to feel like they're playing a brand new schedule every single year. It's going to be interesting to watch how Penn State fans react to that over the years.
That might be maybe that's fun.
Absolutely.
Unique. I mean, because it's damn sure going to be fun. Their fans are really going to appreciate it. That's for certain.
I would think so. I mean, if you are a Penn State fan that attends a lot of home games, maybe checks out an away game or two, every year, you're going to have a different trip you can take basically for the rest of your life, and keep it fresh. So I would think they would be interested. The one thing I would say is, Ohio State, Michigan obviously is just always going to be number one. It just is what it is. But Ohio State, Penn State had become one of the top, 4 or 5 college football rivalries, great games to watch for the past, half to full decade. Sad to see Ohio State, Penn State take a step back. So I'll definitely miss that, 100% miss that game. But I just feel like there is no way to do this without a couple. You got to give a little bit to take what we got. And I would say that's one of the few ones. But yeah, USC, Penn State, come on now. That's great. USC, Wisconsin, USC's coming into Wisconsin one of those years. Is it going to be, I mean, it'll definitely be October. Will it be late October, November? I got to tell you that stuff, that's just going to be amazing to see.
Michael asked, when did the Big Ten go to 9 games? I believe that was 2014. But as I'm looking at that, I just love, this is why the Big Ten is what it is still today. Jim Delaney. It says the Big Ten's 8-game schedule is dead. Well, it's on death row at least. And Jim Delaney is not in a pardoning mood. Delaney told the Chicago Tribune on Monday that an 8-game slate is not even on the table right now. And that means 9 or 10 conference games a year will be the norm in the Big Ten as early as 2014, when the conference moves to 14 teams. The SEC's at 16 teams.
I know. And they still are playing 8. It's just, It's ridiculous. And I mean, and the reasoning that Sankey, their commissioner, gave, comical. I honestly would have, he basically said something along the lines of, we don't want to jump to conclusions, just give us what the reason is. It's been advantageous for you to get more teams, money.
In the bowl games.
That too. Yep. Get more teams into bowl games when you have, and it's funny, games. But when you have 2 6 and 5 teams playing at the end of the year, Missouri Vanderbilt or something like that. Vanderbilt's never going to be ball, but that looks better than one of those teams or both of those teams being 5 and 7, and that's what it is. It's the difference between one game. When you flip out Southwest Missouri State for another conference game, the SEC knows that they're taking the easy path. It's worked for them. Just say that. I would respect that more. I still think it's Bush League, don't get me wrong, but I would respect that. They didn't even their messaging wasn't even good for this.
Well, it can't be, because otherwise they'd have to tell the truth and we'd laugh
That's
out
right.
of more.
That
and
is
they
exactly
know that.
right.
So
correct.
They also know that this is dead. They just can't do it. They cannot pretend to be a leader in this sport and then lag behind and not be a leader, because they are far behind.
I agree.
My God, you could be the worst team, not the worst team, but one of the lower bad teams in the SEC, and I guarantee you, unless you're Vanderbilt, you have Vanderbilt on your schedule, or one of the other bottom feeders. Those are the only 2 games you have to win, plus your 4 money games that you schedule.
Correct. Yes,
for your non-con games in the SEC.
That is correct.
And those are all
especially
4 home games usually too.
They're all 4 home games. That's a great point. They're all 4 home games, and predominantly not versus Power 5 teams. Scott Docterman, again, giving him a plug, The Athletic. He put out a tweet that listed all of the, I don't know if you saw that, but all the, by conference, how many teams in the conference play 10 Power 5 teams. The Big Ten has 13 out of 14 this year that is playing Power 5 teams. The SEC, I believe, had 3. 3 teams in the SEC are playing 10 Power 5 teams. Shout out to Georgia. They're one of them. So they at least deserve some credit there. They don't run away from anybody. But those teams, somewhere around 3, but for sure 4 down to the bottom, they just run and hide. They run and hide from the P5 teams. Florida plays Florida State because they have to. I wonder if they would get out of that if they could, but that's only 9 for them. So, yeah, I mean, it is. If you are, obviously most of your audience is an Indiana fan first and foremost. So that's what you look for, number one. I do think you have to have an eye on at least a little bit conference health and respect. So I would hope, even some of the Big Ten fans that don't like the Big Ten rah-rah, I get it, but you still have to appreciate what has transpired in this last week is the SEC taking a black eye, the Big Ten being a little puffy chesty.
Yeah, but now the Big Ten, though, they have to back it up with a little bit better play across the board. Not just the big boys, Indiana, teams like that. You've got Illinois, who seems to be making some noise. Purdue, man, they could be in trouble after losing Jeff Brom and having that change come in. Don't know what that situation is going to be like. That's going to be interesting. This is an interesting year for Tom Allen. Although sure. I think the buyout is still too high that it might not matter.
Yeah, I guarantee
that puts schools in a really, really bad position when you're 3 years away, which would have been last year, from being able to potentially buy somebody out. If you're already talking about that 3 years away, that's not a good sign.
No, but I would love to get Tom Allen's honest take on this. If I had to guess, he very much wants this year to go well. Why? Because from his standpoint, he's like, okay, if I can do enough to keep my job going into next year, he now looks at his schedule in 24 and 25 and says, I think this is more manageable than what I'm dealing with. So it would be a bitter pill to swallow for Tom Allen if they go. I don't know what it would take to get him fired, but if they go, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but like if they go 2-10,
he's not
and they definitely get. I don't think so either, and I don't want him to. I like Tommy Allen.
Yes.
So but if something horrible happened and he got let go, and then a new coach came in, had a little bit of a momentum, but then gets to take advantage of what should be a a slightly easier schedule. Be a tough bill for Tom Allen. So I guarantee you he was chomping at the bit to get at it, to show improvement, so he can be the coach moving forward to this new scheduling landscape we see.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think that he will. And this is also a great recruiting tool now. And he's done it for being Indiana. I'm gotta give him some credit for he's still getting these guys in here, man. Whether it's transfers or recruits. No, he's not getting 5 stars or whatever, but it's hard to recruit to Indiana. Let's be honest in football. But he works his ass off doing it. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And if they can find that right guy, it's man, losing Michael Penix, this dude could win the damn Heisman this year.
And I love using Michael Penix as a comparison to another football team I follow. Like, long story short, if you have a talented player, chances are he's going to be a talented player no matter where you drop him down. Michael Penix was really good before he got to Washington. He was great. He was great in an Indiana uniform as well. So I think that's something positive for Indiana fans to point at is, that's what it takes, is getting a guy like that in. They've already proven they can do it once. Can they find a quarterback like that again? And I want to point out, Indiana was still battling at the end of the year last year.
Let me tell you, the game that they won at Michigan State is
amazing.
I can't tell you, and I said it last year, I'll go, I can't remember a game that shocked me more that Indiana has won than that game. I would have lost probably everything that I own if I had to. I'm not kidding. That was a stunning win.
Stunning.
But it was so stunning, not because of the guys that got it done, but the situation in which they got it done. It was the end of the year. The season had sucked. Nothing had gone right. Weren't they down big to Michigan State?
They were down. Yeah, that game was essentially over.
Yep. And yet on the road, and I'm like, wow, that was grit, man. You talk Tom Allen likes to use his words, grit, and all this stuff. Well, that showed that certainly showed in that game. There's no doubt about that.
So that's what the game that I point to for people that, I guess maybe you're an Indiana fan that just wants him out, but and if you're a Purdue fan, you're just a Purdue fan, but for everybody else outside, I guess I don't know what's to dislike about Tom Allen. I don't know why people take joy in hot seat talk and stuff like that. It's never something that's gotten me excited. I'm cheering for the guy this year. Especially out of conference, and the team was still playing hard. That is the number one thing. Let the guy retool again. I feel like he's deserved that. Let's see what it looks like this year.
Yeah, he definitely works his butt off, and his players love him, and he's genuine. That is probably his biggest attribute to his recruiting. Is he's genuine. 1,000% genuine. Mike Woodson, I can say the same thing about that in his recruiting. I've heard it over and over from players talking about players getting promised stuff now with all the NIL things that are going on, yada yada. But how have you seen NIL impact the Big Ten conference in football? Has there been any really?
I think this only strengthens it. Essentially,
is Ohio State that was that $13 million a year they needed? Is that what he said?
That's what Ryan Day threw out there. Color me skeptical for what these actual numbers are that these kids are getting.
Absolutely.
Even adults over pump up their numbers on what they tell people they make and whatnot. So to think that a 17, 18, and 19-year-old kid isn't doing the same, is comical. Now they're getting money. Don't get me wrong. So the TV deal, more eyeballs on the set. You're going to get more eyeballs on the set simply because of these premier matchups that we have. This is a commodity product, now, and essentially what that means is there's more for outside sources to feel like they can invest in. That's funny to say, but these kids, so it's just going to pump up the numbers more.
And that's a great phrase that you just used, to invest in these kids. Boy, I bet you that's exactly what people would say, that this is what should have been happening a long time ago.
Yeah, I can't say I'm one of them, even as a former athlete. So
as a former athlete, then what do you, then you don't disagree, or you disagree with NIL?
Well, this is a whole nother topic, but I don't disagree with NIL. I disagree with the throughput of NIL right now. It's too grabastic. This needs to get reined in. There are coaches now. It's probably going to typically be coaches that are extremely secure, or maybe they're on their way out the door. Kirk Ferentz has made a comment that I was proud of them to make, that basically said, how do we get a little bit of levity back in our way, which I believe should come in the form of contracts. I think you should have to sign a 2 or 3 year contract.
I've
I think they should be able to
times, minimum 2 year contract.
So, franchise tag a kid, stuff like that. Program tag, as they would call it. I think those things should be on the table. There should be some reining in, because that's the part about it that I don't like right now. And I can't say that I could see that happening, because that is more NCAA based. I think it's probably going to.
Before I let you go, here's a great example of that. Indiana softball. Taryn Kern, freshman, led the country in home runs, was the Big Ten freshman and player of the year.
I'm just going to take a guess and say Oklahoma.
No, she
go to Oklahoma.
Oh, I know she hit the portal. She's an Indiana player. She's a freshman Indiana player. Led the Big Ten in 8 offensive categories. Let me say that again. 8.
Yeah.
And this is a freshman. Indiana had a great year, and then as soon as it's over, she's in the portal.
Okay, so we don't know where she's going yet.
No. But that's.
I'm going to predict she's going to Oklahoma. would be my guess.
Boom.
Right.
Who just finished off the championship with 50 straight wins and 61-1 on the season. Jeffrey the Greek. Oh my God, it's
been long.
The only thing that could make this better is if Spicy Shooty was here.
Yeah, too bad. I when I saw the lineup and he wasn't on, it bummed me out. But he
was on yesterday.
Just recorded. He was on. Just recorded with Shooty. We had two podcasts with them. Eyes on Big podcast, by the way, if anybody's forgot. Kurt and I are going to be recording on this very topic later. We'll have that podcast out either late tonight or tomorrow.
And tell them where they can find it.
Apple, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, just look for us. Eyes, EYES on B1G.
Brother, it has been a pleasure and long overdue.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Great talking to you.
Thanks for being back. Jeffrey the Greek joining us as we talk about the new Big Ten schedule and other things here on Indiana Sports Beat. More coming up here. Brought to you by our good friends from the Ugly Grouper for our Florida listeners. Of course, up on Anna Maria Island. One of the best restaurants in this part of Florida, as a matter of fact. So make sure you stop by and tell them Indiana Sports Beat Radio sent you. We've got more coming up after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the man, that was fun.
That was fun. How did we have such a long segment? I felt like that was a half hour straight, wasn't it?
Well, because I knew it pisses John off.
It didn't make me mad. I like when you separate them a little more evenly.
Well, because I didn't know how much time he had.
Well,
no, it's perfect. I got to hit
until the end of the thing, but yeah, if he's got to go.
So yeah, I'll hit the road right away. But I just was like, I kept waiting for John to snap at us.
Oh
no!
Trust me,
I just send Jim a bunch of texts.
Trust me, he's snapping. Don't worry. Don't worry, he's snapping. And I feel it every time he snaps. I'm like, ouch. It's like he's got a shock collar on me. It's like he's got a shock collar. He's
doing his job. That's what you hired him for, man. That's how he's got to do it.
I know, man. I can't. We can't make it this long next time. It's a blast.
All right. Love you guys. Have a great
Love
weekend.
you all, man. Appreciate you
All right.
so much.
Jeffrey.
Love you, man. Have a great
See
one.
you, John. All right. See you guys.
man.
Man, it's fun.
All right.
Can't
These are
wait till
good.
football season, man. It'd be fun again.
Oh yeah, it will be.
Have the
You'll
gang
about
back together.
5 minutes here, I believe. to
Spicy
wrap things
shooty.
up.
Get spicy shooty on, back on.
You'll have Shooty in town too.
Well,
Close
not
to
in
town.
town. Yeah. Closer, a lot closer. We will be able to do stuff
Yeah.
together. And I
Like
will.
imagine being able to have him stop by BB's with you every Friday or something.
Well, I don't know if you'll be able to do that, but like all of our like Big Ten stuff,
Yeah.
and we could probably plan like maybe a live show a week. That would be cool. It would be excellent. Thank you, Fred. I appreciate you so much.
Top shelf. We love being called top shelf.
Guest is what it's all about because nobody is tuning in to hear me, baby. Appreciate you, Fred. Appreciate everybody, though. Who be afternoon? I don't have. Oh man!
All right, here we go.
Custom Metal Art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Getting you ready for the weekend. I hope you had a good time with us. Certainly enjoyed having you guys along. It would be pretty boring without you. We wouldn't have anybody to talk to. How about Oklahoma? You got to congratulate the ladies on they just dominant. 53 straight wins, 61-1. And that was a good call by the Greek. I would not be surprised at all to see Taryn Kern end up there or Florida State. Those are the two biggies. The Big Ten schedule, amazing. It's going to be fun. Big Ten fans, you'll have the opportunity, and I know everyone won't be able to go, but you're going to get the chance to go out to see games in the Rose Bowl. And that is just incredible. It's an incredible experience. I've not seen a game in the Rose Bowl. I've been there. I haven't been in. I went there. I was going to go in one time, and I got there, and they were shooting a daggone commercial, and I couldn't get in. But it's in a beautiful. It's like in a park area up in Pasadena. Then, of course, I think it's UCLA that plays in the Memorial Coliseum, which was built in 12 AD, I think, for an Olympics. No, I'm just kidding. But it was built for an Olympics, but I can't remember when. So someone will have to look that up. 1964 Los Angeles, or no, older than that. And there was a 1964, something like that, 68 Los Angeles Olympics. I cannot remember, but failing on my memory. John, does that mean you've looked it up and found it?
No, it means we've got 2 minutes left.
Oh, perfect. Well, daggone it. Man, it has been an incredible week. I've had so much fun. Great
guests. That's right. We've had a great list of guests, but they make this so much fun, and I could not do it without them. I'm so grateful for everybody that comes on with us to share everything they do with you guys. And again, cannot thank our fans enough, our listeners. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. John, the producer, for doing everything he does, keeping us between the white lines. Man, it's that time. It's Happy Friday. Go out and have yourself a good one. Until Monday, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.